Welcome to Know Your Balls Podcast, a podcast where you got to know your balls, you got to know your stuff. And we've got a great episode for you this week. Avi Carr-Gloth joined with me, as always, is my good friend Robbie Williams. Robbie, good to see you, man. How you doing?
Feeling great, dude. As always. Great to see you, too.
Great time for you to be wearing that Detroit Tigers hat, huh? Not solely in last place.
I've had this since I was 5. No lie.
Die hard, man. You know what?
Yep.
I respect the loyalty. I mean,
Same,
look, they've been good a couple times while you've been rooting for them. They've been to the World Series. You know,
They've had their moments. You know, they
They've
blew
had
it
their
a few
moments.
times in the World Series, but you know, at least they got there. It was a fun ride.
Yeah, you've gotten some good play. Got to see Miguel Cabrera play. So I mean, hey, you know, I'm a big fan of the AAA team of the Tigers. So you know, if they got good prospects, I'm okay with that. We got a special guest on this week's episode. Tonique's very own Shawn Stewart. Shawn, welcome to Know Your Balls. It's great to have you.
I'm stoked to be here. I think that would be a famous word Kate or AJ would use, stoked. So I am stoked to be here with you guys.
Stoked. Shawn, I didn't actually get a chance to hear, but like, where do your sports allegiances lie? Like, where are your teams?
The fighting city of Philadelphia.
Okay. Enough said.
Enough said. That's it. That's
Enough
it. Fly,
said.
Eagles, fly. Yep.
Fly, Eagles, fly. So you know, it's a good time to be a Philadelphia fan if you're a Sixer fan. I'll tell you that. You know, they just got ruined recently. We'll talk about that. We've got a pretty nice schedule today. We're gonna start off with baseball. Albert Pujols, obviously the biggest name right now. He's on the Dodgers. We'll talk a little bit about his start there. No hitters. They're a big topic these days, obviously. Robbie's Detroit Tigers on the right end of a no hitter recently, while one of our producers, Jacob, his Mariners are on the wrong side of a no hitter. So we'll talk about that. Of course, because it's a 365-day-a-year league, the National Football League, Julio Jones is the biggest story in the National Football League. Could he be traded? We'll touch on that. And then, of course, the NBA playoffs are here. I am so excited. I'm so happy about it. And I'm sure Shawn is too with his Philadelphia 76ers. We'll talk about the play-in tournament and whether we think that was a success or not, and our predictions for the first round of the playoffs. Before we get to all those topics, though, I want to take a quick sec to thank Tell ABQ. Download the Tell ABQ app. Shout out to all the great people in Albuquerque. You can listen to all the Tonique podcasts, including this one, Know Your Balls, under the podcast section in the Tell ABQ app. So go check out Tell ABQ. So, gentlemen, we have a Hall of Famer named Albert Pujols. You may have heard of him. He's on the Los Angeles Dodgers now. There was a lot of, I guess, a bit of a surprise when he signed with the Dodgers because, you know, they were already a pretty established team, but clearly he wants to win another ring before he goes out. He's already started in a few games for them. Some people thought he might be just coming in for some pinch hit situations. He's already started some games. He's gotten a hit in all but one game he's played for them. So Shawn, as you're the newcomer, I'll start with you. What do you make of Pujols' presence on the Dodgers? What do you make of his start?
Yeah, you know what? The Dodgers are, of course, everyone is giving him a hard time for only playing 60 games last year and winning a World Series in 60 games. If you ask a Giants fan or anybody in that division, it doesn't count. Really, you put an asterisk by it, I guess, if you will. But you know what? It's Albert Pujols, and he's going to go down as one of the greatest. I'm not saying he's going down as the greatest, but he will go down as one of the greatest first basemen of all time. And it's a phenomenal start. I'm glad to see him back in the National League, where there is no designated hitter.
Robbie, what do you think?
Well, the rich get richer over there in Dodger City, right? And they really need. I mean, I know he's not the same Albert Pujols he was, but it's like, did you need him? Why did the Dodgers pick him up? I think he could have gone somewhere to help out some poor destitute team, maybe like the Tigers.
Phillies even, yeah.
Philly, why the Dodgers?
Spit on.
I feel like they were just sitting over there in LA and they were just like, oh, Albert Pujols? Yeah, why not? You know, like it was just like that's how the decision got made. Sure, bring him on, give him another ring.
I'm just thinking it's gonna be like, what, like there are always those like famous like Hall of Fame athletes that are like, it's weird seeing them in certain uniforms, like Michael Jordan on the Wizards. That's weird.
Yeah.
This is gonna be one of those things where it's like when we look back and we see pictures of Albert Pujols in a Dodgers uniform, we're like, wait, what? That doesn't, like, at least with the Angels, he was there for like a long time. The Dodgers, it's like that's gonna be weird. It's gonna be even weirder, or it may change if he has like a clutch moment for them in the playoffs, or if in the World Series even, because I can see a world where he has like a big pinch hit. They may not want to put him in the field in the playoffs, but they put him in the field for more or less the start. So
I don't know. I think it always look weird in a Dodgers uniform compared to the Angels. Or I think about like Brett Favre, like at the end of his career. Like
I agree.
I literally just watched some highlights on YouTube the other day, and I saw Brett Favre in a Jets uniform, and it just like hit me. I was like, oh, that's right. He played for the Jets for what, 1 year, 1 season, I think.
One season.
Yeah, and it just was like, just doesn't look right, you know. Like, granted, he didn't have a whole lot of success there, but it'll never look right. I think even if he had won a Super Bowl with the Jets, I'd still think it just didn't look right. Like, he just was with them for so long, you know.
When I was younger, sorry, go ahead, Sean.
No, I was just going to say I agree with you. I was thinking about the whole Brett Favre thing. But what about this? What about if the Dodgers and the Cardinals meet in the playoffs? Don't you think him going back to St. Louis would be kind of, a big deal? You know he's going to get a standing ovation in St. Louis. And right now, the way the Cardinals are playing in the National League Central, anything's possible. But I think that would be kind of neat to see the Cardinals and the Dodgers meet somewhere in the Major League Baseball playoff. I think that would be pretty neat to see.
That would be
a heck of a storyline.
That would be really tough if you were a St. Louis fan.
Yeah.
That would be like, I don't know. That would be like if LeBron James beat the Cavs in the playoffs. Like, I don't know. I don't know how I'd feel about that as a Cleveland fan. That'd be tough. Or if Michael Jordan beat the Bulls in the playoffs. Tom Brady beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Like, it's like a whole thing. Yeah, I'm glad though that he's like not just like there like as like a name or a face, because I feel like Los Angeles, they're a city of stars. Like he's actually playing, and he's like playing pretty decently so far. He's hitting like 263, which in this day and age is really good. The major league average is like 230 something, so he's an above average hitter in his short stint with the Dodgers, and that actually leads perfectly into our next topic, which is the no-hitters, the plethora of no-hitters that have gone on in Major League Baseball. The most recent being Spencer Turnbull, the 28-year-old right-hander for Robbie's Detroit Tigers. Really random. Yeah, good for the Tigers. They were the best team in baseball for one day. The Tigers shutting out the Seattle Mariners 5-0. 5 no-hitters through May 18th. That matches the 1917, over 100 years ago. It matches that season for the most in baseball history to that date. And again, 2 of those were against the Mariners. 2 of those were against my Cleveland Indians. So, shout out to one of our producers, Jacob Stevenson. I feel you, brother. But it's like a little bit like, Spencer Turnbull did it. I'm remiss if I'm forgetting Corey Kluber on the Yankees, former Indians 2-time Cy Young winner, threw a no-hitter for the Yankees. I almost felt bad for Kluber because when he threw a no-hitter, it was like, oh, another one of these. It's not that like I'm always gonna tune in for like that last inning or two for a no-hitter, but it's like, is it losing that bit of shine like I don't know. It's like
It's almost like being the middle child or something. Like you're just overshadowed by everything else going on.
Yeah. So I mean, it was. I think
Yeah.
it was. So Turnbull threw a no hitter. Then the sixth no hitter of the season was Corey Kluber, who did it less than 24 hours later. That's like, it's like almost cheapening the accomplishment. I don't know. What do you think, Sean?
You know, I think what wins championships in baseball?
Pitching.
That's exactly right. So I mean,
Pitching.
I think this is phenomenal. I mean, it's kind of like in the NFL. What wins championships in the NFL? Defense, right? So yeah. So in baseball, it's pitching and defense. So I have no problem with this. And by the way, I wanted to throw a third team into the mix. There's actually been 3 teams that have been hit no hit twice this season. You got the Indians and the Mariners. Also, the team in Texas, the Texas Rangers, have also been hit. Had
Oh yes,
no-hitters.
now
That's what,
yes.
Yep.
So maybe it's just those teams. I mean, the Mariners have the worst batting average in baseball as a team. The Indians are the 3rd worst as a team. The Rangers are kind of middle of the pack though, in terms of team batting average. But yes, you're right. Thank you for that correction, Sean. And also, this is all without including Madison Bumgarner, who threw a no-hitter in a 7-inning game this season, which I believe should count as a no-hitter because he played the whole game and there were no hits, and I feel like that's the definition of a no-hitter.
That you ended the game soon. I totally agree with you on that. I heard about this and I was like, he didn't end the game. He didn't tell you to stop. He would have kept pitching if there was 2 more innings. You know, like
he would have kept going.
He didn't change the rules. He didn't change the rules that Major League Baseball changed. Now it's 7 innings for double headers. So,
yeah, I think he said something after the game. He was like, "Yeah, I'd like to really thank the commissioner for doing that. I really would." I hope that they go back and change that. Similarly to, I think they should go back and change Armando Galarraga's perfect game. But that's another can of worms that we're not even gonna get into that. But yeah, this is gonna be interesting to see as we move forward on the season. But I want to get your thoughts real quick before we move on. Do you either of you think that these unusually large amount of no hitters, do you think it's diminishing the accomplishment at all?
Absolutely not. No, and I mean, I actually have a few stats here I wrote down. As far as no hitters are concerned. So I'm just going to throw these out and maybe we can discuss them. Does anybody know which team has the most no hitters in Major League Baseball history?
I have no idea.
It's the Dodgers. The Dodgers do.
Okay, well that makes sense.
Yeah, and we know Nolan Ryan has the most no hitters at 7, and there's actually 6 teams in Major League Baseball history that have only thrown 1 no hitter, and they're the Milwaukee, Toronto, Colorado, Tampa Bay, the Mets, and the Padres just got their first one this year, this season. And there's 2 catchers in Major League Baseball history that have caught the most no hitters. Jason Varitek for the Red Sox and Carlos Ruiz for the Fighting Phillies. They both have 4 no hitters. Have caught 4 no hitters. So I just want to throw some stats out to you that maybe bring up a discussion. But I have no problem with no hitters. I think it's good for the game. I'd rather see a 1-0 game, but it's also nice to see an 11-10 game. But it's just I prefer the no hitters.
Well, for the sake of having a show, I'm going to jump in and disagree with you here because I'm a more casual baseball fan, and I feel the pain of some of the baseball fans who might even be more casual than me when, I mean, it's just so slow sometimes, man. When the best thing that's happening in the game is that nothing's happening in the game. Like, I can appreciate it. I used to play baseball. I've watched a decent amount of baseball in my life, but like, I get why the sport is like losing fans and not creating new fans when, I mean, you got a 3-0 game, a 5-0 game. I mean, imagine watching a basketball game and the whole time you're watching it, the other team doesn't even make it halfway up the court. you're going to turn that off at halftime. You know, I mean, you're not even going to make it till halftime. So baseball is this you have to develop you know, it's like fine wine or something, to be able to sit there and watch the patterns of the pitching, and, you know, switching from you know, off speed pitches, fastballs, location, how they pepper the outside of the plate, you know, how they treat different hitters differently. I mean, it's a lot to take in if, like, you've never watched baseball before and you're just trying to, like, get into it, you know. And then you watch the whole game and you're like, what's going on? So, you know, I think it's funny that you know, Clayton Kershaw, one of the best pitchers in baseball, you know, believes that the abundance of no-hitters is bad for the sport. Apparently, he's quoted as saying this. I think it's funny that a pitcher, and one of the best pitchers, also agrees that, like, you know, you don't want to not appreciate pitching, but at some point it's like, you know, we want to see something happen here. It's cool when nothing's you know, when somebody's that good, but then you think about, like, okay, you got the Mariners and Cleveland, getting 2 no-hitters against each of them, and it's like, well,
and the Rangers.
How much is really the pitcher at that point? You know, I mean, not to take it away from them, but also it is kind of coincidental, for one team to be beaten up on another team like that.
Well, I gotta say, Shawn, you throwing out all those numbers, that's knowing your balls right there. That's what we're looking. That's what we're looking for when we bring someone on. That's exactly what we're looking for. I agree though with Robbie. Like, I'm not as diehard of a baseball fan as most. I'm more casual. I'm one of those people that gets way more into the game when I'm actually at the game. My mom likes to joke with us whenever we're like, "Oh, there's a no-hitter on, we gotta watch." She's like, "Oh, you're gonna go watch paint dry? Like, that's so exciting." I get it, and I think baseball, more than any other sport, has had to change a lot of different rules in their game to try to appeal and grow a fan base. You know, our attention spans aren't what they used to be, you know, 10, 20 years ago, and I think that's, you know, that's one of the contributing factors of why they're trying to shorten the game. They have mound visits. Maybe they move the mound back, like, there's you know, starting the extra innings with a runner on second. A bunch of things. I think baseball, more than other sports, has had to change their rules to really accommodate trying to get a new fan base, or an increased fan base.
I would agree, and obviously, like you guys said, the pace of the game in baseball, sometimes you're just, it's so slow, and it's just, you know, the batter steps out multiple times, or the pitcher, the mound visits. It's just pitch the damn ball, you know, just throw the ball. Let's get the game going on here. But yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't feel like you're watching a professional sporting event. It almost feels like you're watching some guys that are hanging out in the park, just playing a game, which is like part of the draw. Like, it's part of what I love about baseball, is that it's like a relaxing sport to watch. You can almost kind of ignore it a little bit and do something else, you know, leave it on the radio or something.
Unless you're keeping score, though, because I like to go to the games and keep score.
Oh, you keep that's pretty. I've seen people. I've never done that.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yep.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll sport will pick up a little bit, and you know, maybe we don't get a no-hitter for a couple months, and then all of a sudden we get more soon. So I'm very interested to see how this plays out, and if baseball does indeed move the mound back. I know that's something they had been discussing. Moving on to a bit of a quicker topic, Julio Jones is the biggest story in the National Football League right now. Free agency is behind us. The draft is behind us. Julio Jones, who is, I mean, when it comes to the cream of the crop receivers, you don't get much better than him, if any at all. It's like him and DeAndre Hopkins for me is like the 2 best in the game. He has on his contract 2 more seasons this year for 2021 and 2022. This will be his age 32 season. He's still playing well, but Atlanta has dipped off a bit, and now there's a lot. You know, the trade winds are swirling. Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter are circling over this story over and over again, and that typically means that something's happening. Conversations are being had, so to speak. He is going to count against the cap for just over $23 million this season. He has a potential out in 2023 on his contract, forgot to mention, but that's a significantly lower cap hit. Obviously, they're not going to cut him. But Julio Jones being traded to a bunch of different teams is something that a lot of people are presuming nowadays. The betting odds still say that Atlanta is the betting favorite for him to stay on the team next season. But the Colts, that's a team that's been thrown out there. AJ would love that. Shout out to the Indianapolis Colts. The Chargers, the Ravens, Patriots, 49ers, Titans. He was seen working out with Derrick Henry recently. DeAndre Hopkins also, speaking of which, he implied that he would potentially restructure his contract in order to get Julio Jones to the Cardinals. Ooh, that would be something. So what do you guys make of the situation? Do you think he's going to stay on the Falcons this season, or is he going to get traded, and to where?
Well, first of all, the Falcons are in what we call salary cap hell. They're in salary cap hell. They are. And I personally think Calvin Ridley is potentially becoming the number one wide receiver in that offense. And who did they just draft in the NFL draft? Yeah. They just got Kyle Pitts, who I think is more of a wide receiver than a tight end. I mean, I think he's built more like a wide receiver, but that's just my opinion. So I think, and I agree, I think the Colts, can you imagine him with T.Y. Hilton? I think that would be phenomenal. And what has Carson Wentz never had in his offense? When he played in Philadelphia, what did he never have? A number one wide receiver. And please,
Alshon Jeffrey,
that Deshaun Jackson or Nelson. Okay. I still think he was a number two receiver. Nelson Aguilar. Dropped everything that was thrown to him. So I personally think, if Atlanta can afford him, he'll stay, obviously. But like I said, they're in salary cap hell. But I think, AJ, I think the Colts would bode well by getting Julio Jones. I really do. Yeah.
Go for it, AJ.
Yeah.
Add my microphone. Alrighty. Alright, I'll give my 2 cents. Do I want Julio Jones on the Indianapolis Colts? No, I don't. I don't want the Colts to get him. I don't. I'm sorry. I know. I see that look. Let me tell you why. He's 32. He's coming off an injury-riddled season. What was the number you just read? $23 million against the cap. We can't even swing that. We had the most cap space, almost the most cap space heading into the offseason. We really didn't spend a whole lot. We took on like Carson Wentz's contract and a couple free agents here and there. We didn't take on a whole lot. We still don't have enough money to get Julio Jones on the Colts.
The Colts right now have almost $20.5 million of cap space.
That might have been before the Eric Fisher signing though, because we signed Eric Fisher. Last I saw, I think we were on.
Oh, you signed Eric Fisher. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
We signed Eric Fisher to a 1-year, $9.4 million contract. So, would it be nice to have Julio Jones? Yes, but we just brought T.Y. back. I get it for only a year. We just brought T.Y. back. I think Michael Pittman needs to progress. We have Zach Pascal, Paris Campbell who need to progress. I think getting a guy like Julio Jones would definitely be a step back for the receiver room in Indianapolis. I know that sounds stupid to say, trust me. I'm sure if we get Julio, I'm going to go buy a Julio jersey. Promise you. But I think for the potential of this offense's future, you don't trade for Julio Jones. And what do you even think they're going to ask for him?
Well, that's the other thing. What the teams are going to have to give up the farm to get him. Can you imagine what teams would have to give up to get Julio Jones? I can only imagine.
Robbie, what do you think?
It's just because all the reasons you're saying other teams aren't going to want to take Julio Jones is the same reason Atlanta's probably trying to get rid of him, right? So it's just an interesting situation where it's like Atlanta doesn't want to eat that $23 million for the next 2 years, and nobody else does because, like you said, AJ, he just came off of an injury-riddled season. He's still a great player, but he's got to be playing to be that great player. And he's definitely not like the future of anything anymore. You know, he's getting older. So if he does go somewhere, he's got to go to a team that's basically just trying to add that extra piece to make a push, similar to, I mean, not really similar, but almost kind of similar to bringing in, you know, Antonio Brown or Rob Gronkowski to Tampa Bay. It's like you got a great team, and then you just want like this extra weapon to get you over the hump. But you know, I just don't see him leaving because yeah, he no one can afford him, and I don't think it would be a good move unless you were just trying to make a push.
The Falcons can't
And I
afford
don't
him.
see who's gonna be able to do it.
Yeah, nobody can afford
The
him.
Falcons
That's-
don't even
yeah.
have the cap
Yeah.
space to sign their rookies right now.
I'm-
So
I-
I don't know. How do
I
you
mean,
how do you even get in that situation where you don't have enough drafts or salary cap space to sign your rookie free agent class? Not even free agent class, your rookie drafted class. Excuse me.
I mean,
So they're
look,
gonna have to give him away for less than he's worth. Then, you know, realistically.
I think there will be, if they are hell bent on trading him, there will be good offers for him, because he is a game changing wide receiver. I actually think the fact that they drafted Kyle Pitts, I actually think that increases the likelihood of Jones staying in Atlanta, because to me, they could have drafted a number of quarterbacks. They could have drafted a couple of quarterbacks at that spot. That would have basically signaled, oh, we're starting over. There doesn't seem to be any reason not to expect Matt Ryan back with the Falcons next year. And you can say what you want about Atlanta's chances of going on a deep playoff push. The defending Super Bowl champs are in their division. Even though they don't have Drew Brees anymore, the Saints still look to be a formidable foe. The Panthers are kind of a wild card. But
Christian McCaffrey, as long as McCaffrey's healthy, you know, that
Yeah.
offense,
we'll
runs for
see
him.
how
So,
see how Darnold does. But
Yeah.
to me, it's like Atlanta's like, okay, we're not ready to put this era behind us yet. We still believe in Matt Ryan. We're giving him this shiny new toy in Kyle Pitts. Like we're gonna see how this goes. We're gonna try to make the numbers work as much as they can. So I would be shocked if he got traded. I would be very surprised, because even though they are in salary cap hell, I would probably bet that few of the guys they would have to get rid of would potentially give them the kind of impact that Julio Jones would. So again, the fact that if this was like during or around the time of the draft or free agency, I don't think this would be as big of a story. Even though, like, during that time of the offseason, there's like more room to maneuver because you haven't made all those draft picks yet and you haven't made all your signings yet. I actually think like it's a bigger story now because it's kind of dead space for the NFL. Like there's not a ton going on right now. The biggest thing that happened was the schedule release, right? Like, so I actually don't think this is as big of a story as it might be, unless Schefter and Rappaport start sounding the alarm bells. So again, I think the betting odds will hold, and I think that he'll stay with Atlanta. But if he goes to the Colts, maybe we all have to chip in and buy AJ a Julio Jones jersey. We'll see.
yeah, there you go, AJ.
There you go, AJ. But we got some NBA hoops to talk about before we do. Again, want to make sure to thank Tell ABQ. Make sure to check out Tell ABQ or download the Tell ABQ app where you can listen to this podcast on Tell ABQ podcast. Shout out to Tell ABQ and the great people in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So the NBA playoffs are upon us, gentlemen. We had the play-in tournament, which we can touch on real quick. The Pacers beat the Hornets in the Eastern Conference in the 9-10 battle. Hornets eliminated. Celtics beat the Wizards to get the 7th seed. Wizards then go back and beat the Pacers. They get the 8th spot. And then the West, the Spurs lose to the Grizzlies in the 9-10 game. Spurs are done. And the Lakers beat the Warriors in the highest rated game of the season. And to get the 7th spot, then the Warriors, stunningly, I thought, they lose in overtime to the Memphis Grizzlies, and Memphis gets the 8th spot. So, first of all, do we think this was a success? The play-in tournament, first time it's ever happened before. Do you guys want it back? Do you hate it? Do you love it? What are your thoughts on the play-in tournament?
Well, let me
I
ask
really
you.
want it back.
Go ahead.
Okay. I really want it back because it started off slow. I'll give all the critics that it started off slow. The Hornets, Pacers, not a good game. Wizards did not play very well against the Celtics. You know, but the Spurs Grizzlies, that was an all right game. And then the Warriors Lakers, that was a great game. I was on my feet standing in front of my TV, watching LeBron lie about aiming at the middle one. I think he made that up. He was just quoting from Rocky. But he's serious. It's a direct quote from the movie. Anyways, I could get out. That's a whole nother can of worms. Him talking about shooting at the middle one. But the game of this series, or of the play-in tournament for me though, was the upset of the Grizzlies beating the Warriors. Ja Morant played a great game. He just got in rhythm, and he was. I mean, they were talking about it coming into the game. They're like, he needs to shoot better from three. He needs to, because they're just leaving him wide open because he keeps missing them. And then he came out there and was just in rhythm, just draining him. And the defense they played, with I'm blanking on the center's name right now. Not Vucevic.
On Looney.
I'm sorry.
Valanciunas.
Valanciunas, yes.
Valanciunas.
Yeah, he's a beast down there, and he ended up getting into foul trouble. But they really persevered through that, and I think his name's Dylan Booker, the other guard.
Dylan Brooks.
Dylan Brooks, sorry. He was playing great defense against Steph. I mean, Steph still put up 39 points, but he was really struggling, uncharacteristically from, as much as Steph ever struggles from 3-point range. He was struggling a little bit, and that kind of forced him to get in the paint. And I think he got a little tired out towards the end of the game there. He gave up some defensive stops there that there was one inbounding play where he kind of lazily followed one of the Memphis players around a screen, and it was just a simple inbound pass and a layup. And it didn't look good. And the time that Steph usually sits, he wasn't sitting. And I was just really, really impressed by the Grizzlies in that game. And I think that the play-in tournament kind of allows you to showcase and be able to watch talent like Ja Morant kind of develop and learn to rise to the occasion like he did.
I'm kind of on the fence about it still. It's kind of, the first go around with it. And I thought about this, and I was thinking, well, is it a success? Well, let me ask you guys some questions. Do you feel it's a success when a 7-9 NFL football team wins their division and then hosts a home playoff game against a 12-4 and 11-5 team? Or is it a success to see a MLB added an extra wild card spot? So is it a success to see, that second wild card team could be like a sub 500 team? Or is it a success when a NCAA basketball team finishes the season, 13-17, but they win their conference tournament and they get into the field of 68 where a 22-11 team doesn't win their conference tournament and doesn't get in. So, I'm still on the fence about this. It's more games, which is great for the NBA, I think, but possibility there's more injuries, and you're getting sub 500 teams in there. Like, do the Wizards have any business being in the playoffs? I mean,
I think
they definitely do.
So,
I think they had a rough go of it with injuries there, and they showed once they got healthy that they can play. I don't think they would have become, if they had been uninjured, that they would be in the top 5 or anything. But I think they've definitely proven that they belong in the playoffs. I mean, they went on an amazing run at the last half of the season, and barely squeaked in. I was following the week to week, just like keeping up on them. Like, all right, what's the team above them? What's the situation where they can get in? Because I was in. I think that's great when you give a team a chance to fight for that spot. I mean, when you start talking about wild cards like this, which that's my only beef I really have with the play-in tournament. I wish they would just call it a wild card, because every other sport calls it a wild card when you do this. But I think about I'm trying to think the year Super Bowl 40 happened. The Steelers were a wild card in that playoff. I think they were 8-8. And I remember this because the Super Bowl was at Ford Field that year that they won.
That was 2005 against the Seahawks.
2005 was that Super Bowl. But the lead up to their bout to win that Super Bowl, they won a game. The final game of the season came down to the wire with the Lions. And I remember rooting for the Lions just to ruin the Steelers' chances at going to the playoffs at the wild card. And they won that game, and they just barely squeaked into the wild card. And then they went on a run, and they won the Super Bowl. And it was a great Super Bowl. And it was a great run. So 9 times out of 10, these people are, they're not going to get anywhere, right? The better team, the number one seed is the number one seed for a reason.
Right.
But, there's a reason you play the games.
Right.
And I like it.
I was thinking like Butler a couple of years ago when they went to back-to-back NCAA championships. Or Florida Gulf Coast comes out of nowhere, and they go to a Final Four. So it's good for the game to see teams that should not be in and go on this run. So like I said, I'm still on the fence about it. There's pros and cons for everything, and there's still pros and cons for the play-in tournament. So we're just gonna have to see how it goes, but that's how I feel about it.
I can totally understand the other viewpoint too, though. Where you end up ruining the next series sometimes if a bad team gets lucky in the first series and then goes on to the next one. Well, then you get a 4-0 blowout or something. So it's kind of like a give and take.
Yeah, I mean, I think the play-in tournament, there was the last 2-3 weeks of the season, the games carried much more weight. You had more teams in the race for longer. I would argue, Memphis, they wouldn't have been in the playoffs. We talked about Washington. Washington was the 8th seed. Even if there were no play-in, Washington still would have made the playoffs. Memphis is the only team that's in the playoffs that would not have been in the playoffs otherwise. And Robbie said it, a young, developing, up-and-coming team, up-and-coming player like John Morant, I mean, we would miss that. And, it's like meaningful games that young teams need. Memphis is a smaller market, one of the smallest markets. You're giving more opportunities. I don't exactly feel bad for Golden State, with their recent run of success. So I think there's a lot of give and take, and I think you guys both raised some really good points there. I know Adam Silver has made it no secret he wants this back. The players, I think from a player's perspective, I would hate this if I was a player, because you play 72 games, or at least this season you played 72 games, and then with 1 or 2 games, your season could be done just like that. So from a fan's perspective and from the league's perspective, this definitely had its pros. I don't know how I'd necessarily feel about it coming back, but I do believe that there were some genuine good things to come of it. So
Agreed.
well, I'm interested to see if that gets resolved. All right, gentlemen. So we have one more topic to discuss, and that's the NBA first round. As we record this, most of the game ones have happened already, but I feel like it's still valid to give some predictions. So we're just gonna go rapid fire. I'm gonna say a series, and then you guys are gonna tell me which team you think will win it and how many games they will win it. They're all best of 7 series. So give me a team and how many games you think they'll win it in. Let's start in the East. The Philadelphia 76ers and the Washington Wizards. Philadelphia's own Shawn Stewart. We'll start with you.
Real quick, I really think the Wizards are going to give the Sixers some fits, especially with Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook. But I think the Sixers come out on top. I think the Sixers win 5.
I wholeheartedly agree. I'm going to say the Sixers win in 6. I'm going to say they're going to give them a little bit more trouble than we think.
I'm going to go right. I'm going to go with Robbie. I also think Washington will win 2. But I think Philadelphia is just too deep, and their top players, Embiid and Simmons, are legit. I'm going to take Philadelphia in 6. Next series, the Hawks and the Knicks. Knicks back in the playoffs finally. Robbie, let's start with you.
I'm taking the Knicks in 7. I think these are 2 teams that don't have a lot of playoff experience. I think that's going to kind of play into it a little bit. And you're just going to see a lot of back and forth. You're not going to see any team totally dominate the other one for multiple games in a row.
You know what? The 4-5 matchup is always the toughest matchup to predict. We all know that. It's tough. And I'm going to take the other side. I'm going to take the Hawks in 7.
I think we're all in agreement that this series will go 7. I'm going to have to agree with Robbio. I'm going to give it to the Knicks, if only for home court advantage. As we're recording this, the game 1's going on, so we don't know how that's happening. But I'm going to go with the Knicks in 7 as well. Next series in the East, the Milwaukee Bucks and the Miami Heat. Miami beat the Bucks in last year's Eastern Conference semifinals. Shawn, you go first.
I watched this game, the game 1 of this series, and it was back and forth, and I wanted to change my mind so many times, but in the end, I think the Bucks are too strong for the Heat, so I'm actually going to take Milwaukee in 7.
Oh, I just like Jimmy Butler. I can't shake my feelings for Jimmy Butler. I just love his attitude. I like his haircut. I just like the whole way he plays and the whole way that team plays. So, I think it's gonna go 7. I think it's gonna be a tight series. I don't think the Bucks are gonna get rolled over like last time, but I think the Heat take the series.
I think this also goes 7 games. That being said, though, I think Miami's a little bit wiser this time around than they were last year. And I think Drew Holiday is going to make a difference. I'm going to say Bucks in 7. This is going to be one of the best series in the first round, I believe. It will come down to it. They went to overtime already, so this is going to be fun. Yeah. And finally, the Brooklyn Nets and the Boston Celtics. Robbie, you start.
Well, just like I like Jimmy Butler, I just don't really like the Brooklyn Nets. I think the Celtics pull out an upset here. I really do.
Whoa.
They put out. I think they pull out an upset here. I think they do. I think that I don't know why. I just got a feeling about it. I think they're the team to beat the Nets.
How many games?
7. It's going all the way if they beat them. For sure. There's no way they're taking it in a few games here. Plus, they lost the first one, so.
And as a Sixers fan, I wish both teams could lose this series. I really do. I really do. I root for the refs if I could. But the problem with the Nets are they got a lot of mouths to feed on that team, and they only have one basketball. So I still think the Nets pull it off, but I think the Celtics give them a run for their money. I think the Nets win in 6.
I also think the Nets win. Although if the Celtics do pull it off, I'm going to come back to this and play Robbie's prediction on repeat forever and ever and ever. The Brooklyn Nets, though, I believe will win this series in 5. I think without Jaylen Brown, the Celtics really lost their puncher's chance. I think Brooklyn, they're good enough that they'll figure it out for this round. I think they win this series in 5. I think I think Boston will win 1 at home. Western Conference, this game, we have not seen any of this series so far. The Utah Jazz, the Memphis Grizzlies. Shawn.
I think Memphis is going to be just exhausted, with with the way they've come in and just had to go through the playing game and things of that nature. So I think this is the only sweep we're going to see, and I think Utah sweeps the Grizzlies.
I'm with Sean on this one. I really liked that performance from the Grizzlies the other night. But you know, I don't think they've got a chance.
Again, by the time this comes out, we'll have already seen game one. I'm gonna give Memphis a game. I think they're scrappy enough they can pull one out. That being said, I'm gonna go with Jazz in 5. Best record in the NBA for a reason. The Dallas Mavericks and the Los Angeles Clippers, another 4-5 matchup. Robbie, we'll start with you.
I'm taking the Mavericks. I'm going with the former Pistons over there. I'm a fan. We got Rick Carlisle and Chauncey Billups. You know, Larry Brown took the Pistons to the finals, and they won the finals there with them. But Rick Carlisle took the Pistons to Eastern Conference Finals for multiple years in a row. I can't remember exactly, but it was ridiculous how many times we got there and didn't move on. So I like those guys, and I just think the vibes are off with the Clippers. Every time I've watched the Clippers play this year, I don't know what it is. There's just something off about. I don't think that team gels as well as it seems like they should, and I think Luka goes off. But in how many games? That's a good question. I'm trying to stall and think of how many games. I think it's gonna be a good series though. I think it's. I'm gonna say Mavs in 6.
Wow. Okay. You know what? I was shocked to see that the Mavericks won the first game. I really was. And another thing, I don't know if I like Kawhi Leonard after the shot that went in for the Raptors a couple of years ago against my Sixers. That still haunts me to my very core. But I think this series can go either way. I agree. I think the Mavericks pull it off. I really do, and I think it's going to go 7. I think the Mavericks win in 7.
Wow. So I guess I'm going to be in the minority here. I think the Clippers will figure this out. I think they're not a team that made people fear as much as they did maybe coming into last year's playoffs. But I do believe that this intense series will come down to who is the best player on the court. And I think Kawhi Leonard will end up being the best player in this series. I'm going to go Clippers in 7. I think it will go the distance.
Okay.
By the way, I'm also very interested to see, when the first round's over, all of us go back and see how wrong we were or right we were.
Right, exactly.
Denver Nuggets and the Portland Trail Blazers. I love both of these teams. Sean.
I think this is the hardest series to predict in the Western Conference, and I went back and forth about this. I like the Trailblazers. I like specific things about each team. I really do, but in the end, I think the Nuggets are going to win in 6.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you. I'm taking the Trailblazers in 6. I think that that team's got something to prove, because they've been so good for so long, but yet not really made it anywhere. And there's just something to prove there, and I think they're going to be on a mission this playoffs, more so than anybody else is really on a mission. I think Damian Lillard really has something to put out there.
I again think this series will go 7. I think we're going to see a bunch of 7-game playoff series in the West, and I'm going to go with Denver. It's my gut. I'm telling there's no other reason why. I have every reason to believe that either of these teams could win the series. My gut's going to tell me it's Nikola Jokic, who I think will win MVP. Also, FYI, the Hawks just won Game 1 in New York, so Atlanta now leads that series 1-0. That's not necessarily breaking news for everybody watching. The last series to predict, the Suns and the Lakers. Robbie.
I'm taking the Suns in 5. I think the Lakers are going to win 1, but just watching the game today, I know you said it before we started, you didn't want to use all this, but I couldn't help but acknowledge that, I mean, they had a 10-point lead consistently, like, the whole game, and they just wouldn't give it up. And it was methodical, it seemed, and I just think the Suns are going to keep that up. So, yep, Suns in 5.
It all comes down to the two players on the court for the Lakers, and it depends on the health of LeBron and AD, and we all know that. And everyone else is just kind of a puzzle piece to the puzzle, if you will. Everything goes through LeBron and Anthony Davis, but I'm actually rooting for the Suns. I actually hope the Suns pull it off, so I'm gonna say the Suns win in 6.
Again, I'm doing this again. I know better than to bet against LeBron James, and I don't want to do it right now, and I won't. And I believe this will be the third series in the Western Conference that will go 7 games. I think the Western Conference in particular will have like iconic playoff series, like round after round after round. And the Lakers will win it, but it will have to go 7 to do it. And I know the Suns look real damn nice in game 1, but it's a 7-game series. I think you can beat LeBron once. You can beat him twice. If you're really good, you can beat him 3 times. But in the first round, I just don't envision LeBron going down in game 1. And it's really all about him. Like on paper, this is like, okay, I should say the Suns should win this series. But it's really just LeBron James that's stopping me from doing that. I'm gonna have to say Lakers in 7. So again, I'm very excited to look back on how terribly we botched these picks. Yeah. There were a couple of scenarios where I was the only one picking one team. I think Robbie picked one team. Robbie picked the Celtics, I think, for some reason. I think Shawn picked Atlanta. So we didn't all pick the same teams. We're good. Some of us are gonna be right, some of us are gonna be wrong. I'm really excited to play this back and see all that. So that about does it. Again, want to thank Tell ABQ, and make sure you follow Tonique on all our socials, YouTube, Instagram, the works, and don't forget to check out our website at latonique.news. Shawn, fantastic having you on. You really know your balls, and we appreciate you coming on, my man. Thank you.
Absolutely, loved it, guys. Would love to come back and do it again.
Yes, sir. More NBA for maybe for the second round. More predictions as well.
There you go.
Robbie, are we good? We good?
I'm not gonna do it anymore. It's
all right.
okay.
Good.
I'll stop. I know how much you didn't like them. So just for you.
Yeah, I kind of miss.
I'll stop.
I kind of miss them now. I don't know. I don't know. I kind of miss them. I don't know.
It's like a jingle in a commercial. It just grows on you.
A little bit. It's like, I hate that. No, wait, now it's gone. Yeah. That'll do it for Nerd Balls. See you next time.
Take care, guys.
Adios.